Hey everyone, it's Ron Toy with the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage, going live for our mortgage market update today, right after Labor Day. So hopefully you all had a great Labor Day weekend. We've got some good moves and good action going on in the market. I'm going to move my head. Just remember, if you didn't join the live um, when I first started, don't worry about it. I post them to my YouTube channel later, so you can go back and watch it from the beginning. But I'm gonna move my head out the way, and then I'll come back and address this as more people join the live. Hey, Monica, how's it going, baby? But so that you can come back and see this. So screenshot it. I'll move out of the way so you can look at this and see what kind of economic information that's coming out this week that'll impact the bond market. So let me move out the way. Screenshot this. So you have it. This is important economic reports that are coming out this week that's going to potentially move the market ahead of the jobs report data that's coming out. I'm sorry, ahead of the Fed fund rate decision on the 18th. So coming back at it, this week's the jobs report week, JOLTS. That's an important report. That's going to be a huge indicator on how much the Fed's going to cut the Fed fund rate on the 18th. And so we're all hoping to see a 50 or more basis point cut to the Fed fund rate on the 18th. But this report, the jobs information, is going to be a huge impacting factor on that. And I highlighted the important dates tomorrow with JOLTS coming out, ADP numbers, everything. It's just going to be a very busy week. That's why I've been trying to do these lives more frequently versus just normally on Monday, so that I can keep people updated, because the bond market has moved so much and we've seen such a huge improvement in the markets. But on this live today, not only am I going to go over the economic information that's going to be impacting rates, but also I want to go over a loan estimate to show people who are following my channel something to look out for when you're comparing numbers, because there's going to be a lot of information as rates get lower and lower to incentivize you to refinance. But I want you to know what you're looking at so that when you're comparing lenders, you understand where the numbers are coming from. So let me show you some other information as we go through so I can get through the current bond market. So let's see here. Let's go. Sorry, I'm still working on getting better at this technology shit. Background, pink. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the bond market. I'm going to move out the way so you can see it. Screenshot this so you have it. So right now we are up 16 basis points at 100.89 on the 5.5 30-year UMBS coupon. It's important to know this information because when you're shopping rates, depending on what time you call, the bond market could be up or down. So when you shop for a rate, ask them, what is the bond market price that this rate is attached to and what coupon? So when you call someone else, you know. But as you can see, the trend since the beginning of July has been an upward trend. Yes, there's been some downward movement, but if you look at the overall average, it's on the trend up. This is important. This is good to see. That means rates have come down significantly, because the higher that number, the lower the rates. So we want to continue to see that trend. But I want to make sure that people that follow me are empowered to make a buying or refinancing decision and some of the things that impact it, because we're going to go over that when we go over the loan estimate. Because there's on CFPB's website, there's a little article that's like the 7 factors that impact mortgage rates. And I want to make sure I help people, because sometimes when people will call and say, hey, what are your rates? They don't know exactly what they're asking for, because there's so many things that can impact rates. So I want to help you get specific with your questioning so you get to the answers you're looking for. So let's go ahead and pull up the next slide. Okay, so now what we're going to go over, if you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'll try to answer them as they come in, but we're going to go over what's called a loan estimate. So when you're shopping for a mortgage, you're going to get these in the mail. Or sorry, you're going to get these disclosures to you. Loan estimates, closing disclosures. What are they? What should I be looking for? So this is an example off CFPB's website, and I'll walk you through it. And so when you're looking on here, you're going to see some basic information. And I got some spots highlighted. Person's buying a $180,000 house. You'll see that at the sales price. Their loan amount is $162,000. 3.875 rate. So you can see all of this here. But what's important is to know your closing costs and your cash to close. So your closing cost, it accumulates and it shows you where it's coming from. And I'll show you on the next page. But then your cash to close. So that's the amount that you'd be bringing to title on the closing date to close your loan. Closing costs, cash to close. They encapsulate, and I'll show you where that all comes together. So just screenshot this. Again, this is on CFPB's website. When you go on there, it's a fantastic resource, but this kind of helps walk you through what a loan estimate is. And I'm showing you from a lender's perspective what things are super important, because you can see property taxes, homeowners insurance in the escrow section, because a lot of the costs for a refi or a loan is going to be the same for every lender. There's only one specific section that's going to be different. And so let's pull that up. Page 2. That, boom. So page 2 of the loan estimate. The only section that's going to be really different between lenders is that section A in the loan estimate, the loan costs, because B, C, everything else are third-party fees. So we're all going to be the same in those sections. Your insurance, your title insurance, your title fees, all of that will be the same. Now, if you're going with a builder who's covering some of those costs, that could be a little bit of a difference. But if you're just comparing lenders, this is where you're going to see the difference in section A. Do they charge points? Do they have a different breakdown? So you can see on this one, it's like over $1,800. Some lenders, you want to ask them, do you charge a flat fee to originate your loan, or do you charge points? That's where you'll see the difference. Again, because most of them are third-party fees, like I was saying, the survey, the title, your escrow account adjustments, all of those things are going to be the same no matter which lender you choose. The only difference is going to be really section A. So when you're looking at that, pay attention there. Also, on this loan estimate, I want to show you where the total cash to close comes from, because then you're like, wait a minute, Ron, they have $16,000 cash to close. Where did that come from? Well, when you look over here on this other side, they put down on earnest $10,000, which is more than normal earnest amount, because earnest is usually 1% of the purchase price. And in this instance, the purchase price was $180,000. So typically, if somebody's buying a $180,000 house, earnest money would be 1%, so $1,800. This person put $10,000 for the example from CFPB, $10,000. So that's why, again, on page 2, you see your estimated cash to close at $16,000 and some change. It breaks it all down here. But this is for you to learn what you're looking at, because there's a lot of ways to finagle numbers. And something that I always tell clients to look at when someone's getting a loan estimate is property taxes and insurance. If you look at that in section G, it'll tell you what they're projecting per month. And you can see property taxes $106 and insurance $100. What's really cool about most counties is that the information is public. So like here in Texas, if I'm looking at a property 1, 2, 3, whatever, I can go on that county's CAD, the appraisal district's website, and search the property and see what the property taxes are going to be, or roughly. So if somebody's really underestimating that, that's where some of the numbers can be messed with to make one person look a little bit better than another. But I don't ever want you to fall into that trap. Check that. Also, homeowners insurance has gone up significantly in most states. So if they're showing you like $75 a month or $100 a month, depending on your loan amount, that could be grossly understated. Because typically what I use as a factor is 0.6% of the purchase price as the annual insurance, and then you divide that by 12. I like to be conservative on my estimates. Some loan officers would rather, estimate a little low and just blame it on the fact that it's third party, you shop for it. But we know averages and statistics, so we should be able to do a better job. But on page 2, this is where you really want to focus on that loan cost, because that's going to be the differentiator between lenders is section A. Everything else, like I said earlier, is going to be a third-party fee, and everybody's are going to be the same. So I'll move out the way so you can screenshot it. But remember, you can get this on CFPB's website. Screenshot it. All right, let's pull up page 3 of the loan estimate. Let's see. Boom. So page 3, what you need to look at on this is if the loan is assumable. This is important. Most loans that are assumable are government loans, FHA, VA, stuff like that. But you'll know if it's an assumable mortgage based on that page. And also if there is an intent to sell the loan. That's nothing to be worried about. It's who's got the servicing rights of your loan. 9 times out of 10, most loans get sold to a different servicer who's just going to be the one who collects the payments. But you want to know on there, it'll tell you if they intend to service it or if they intend to sell the loan afterwards. It doesn't impact you whatsoever, just who you make your payment to. So don't be in a rush to own a home. Doesn't make you any less of an adult not owning one yet. There's some concepts to that that are true. It doesn't make you an adult rush to own a home, but I will show another slide on why a person should buy a home as soon as they can because of the way home prices appreciate in our country since 1942. And by not buying when you can, what you can comfortably afford, you end up falling farther and farther behind because of what's called opportunity costs. And I'll go into that here on the next slide. But let me finish up here. So on this page of the loan estimate, those circle spots are important to look at. But I really appreciate your comment, Eugene, and I want to go into it because it can be intimidating right now with home prices the way they're going. It's a lot, and it's hard for some people to afford them, and that's something that I hate, and it's why I'm on this app. I generally don't like social media. I'm a very private person, and but I knew after seeing so much misinformation getting pumped out over and over that I had to be out here educating people and helping them be empowered to make a buying or refinancing decision. Otherwise, they might not ever hear it because the media is telling them maybe the home prices are going to drop and all this other stuff. Let me just show you this information. This is home price appreciation data since 1942. The only time in our nation's history that home prices dropped were between 2007 and 11 and 1990 by 1%. Now, there have been a couple of years where it was flat. But in 2007 through 2011, there was a couple of factors that really impacted the market. One, very lax lending guidelines. Back then, if you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan, and that created false demand. There was also the factor of, like I was talking about, mortgage guidelines, fogging a mirror, but there are also predatory loan programs like balloon mortgages and stated income loans, which if your credit was decent, you could say you made 500 grand and really making 100 grand or 50 grand. And now you're getting mortgages out there everywhere thinking that the market's always going to appreciate, which statistically it does. But when you run into that kind of overstating demand, which should have been something that everybody and their mom saw, because let me show you the next slide. Let's see if I can get it in a little bit more of a smaller version where you can see it. Come on now. All right, here we go. So this is a little bit better. I'll move out the way so you can screenshot it. If you look at the population birthing rates in different generations, this should have been something that was seen coming, because on the bottom you see a chart where it's in yellow is the completions and in blue it's the formations. Housing formations is about when somebody's about 33 years old, the average age of someone entering the buying market. If you look at that during the time period where home prices went down, housing completions outpaced formations drastically. But if you look at what's going on lately, since 2015, housing completions have been outpaced by formations drastically. This is why home prices aren't going to miraculously drop. Now, the amount that they go up by might slow down if we get some of the incentives that are looking to, like 3 million homes being built and some other options like that. But there's just a horrible lack of inventory. And so let me go back to that slide that I was showing you with the home price appreciation data, just to keep this, and I'm going to move out the way so people can screenshot it. You can go to Case-Shiller, BLS, aggregate all this data yourself. I just like to share it because whether you use me or not, I want you to be an informed consumer. And why I'd say that it's important to buy what you can comfortably afford is when you look at the opportunity cost. So let's take 2020, for example. People that decided not to buy in 2020 because they thought home prices were going to drop because no way home prices could continue to appreciate as fast as they are, ran into 2021 where home prices went up 19% in that year. And then 2022, they went up another 6%. 2023, home prices appreciated between 5 and 7%. And right now, FHFA just released their report, and homes are on trend to do between 5 to 6% appreciation this year. So if you think about it, say in 2020, you're renting an apartment at $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year. That could get you roughly, depending on where you live. Now, everybody's property taxes are a little different, and I'm going to go into that in the section where I'm going to cover next on what impacts your mortgage rate. Because depending on where you live, that's one of the factors. But let's say you're paying $2,000 a month for an apartment, 24 grand a year. And you could have bought a $300,000 house for the same payment roughly. Well, if that house went up 10% that year, that means your home is now worth $330,000. So you missed out on that appreciation of 30 grand, plus paid 24,000 in rent that went to nothing. So in that 1 year, your opportunity cost was about $54,000. And then the next year it went up to almost 20%. So that home that was 330,000 is now another 20% higher. And now you spend another 24,000 if your rent didn't go up. Add the 30,000 from the year before, and now add another 20% of 330,000. Let me just see what that is. 330 times 20%. It's another 66 grand. In 2 years, you missed out on 66,000 plus the 30,000. Add the extra 24 times 2. You're over 100 plus thousand in lost money by waiting 2 years. Now, not every year goes up that much, right? But even if you look at 5 and 7%, people are falling further and further and further behind, and it terrifies me and it keeps me up at night. So I'm like, buy what you can comfortably afford. Don't stretch your budget trying to impress dorks and people that don't matter who aren't paying your bills. If you're living in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, you're like, I'm going to wait to buy until I get married. Screw that. Buy the apartment that you can easily afford, live in it for a few years, build equity. Because when you live in a home, you build equity 2 ways. One, forced savings through principal balance reduction, meaning every time you make your payment, you reduce your principal balance, creating equity. The other is through appreciation. And we have the data since 1942. Screenshot it. It's very stable. And part of the reason why, when you look at it, who are the people that are coming in and buying up insane amounts of inventory right now? Private equity and large corporations are investing in residential real estate right now. Partly is because of the cash on cash return. So when you think about cash on cash return, if you buy $10,000 worth of stock and it goes up 10% in a year, you've made $1,000, which is great. We want 10% of return on our investments, right? S&P, the index funds have averaged 10% of rate of return over the last 30 years. They make it seem difficult to buy houses, right, babe? That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not as difficult, but it is intimidating for some because they've never done it. And I totally understand it. But that's where I'm looking at. It's like, it's so detrimental for people to wait because, like, one of my clients we just closed, they were used T-Shack and they got a check back for the amount they put in earnest option appraisal at closing because they got 5% assistance from T-Shack. But I'm not the only lender who can do it. In most states, there's down payment and closing cost assistance programs. Just do what you can to buy, but you buy that apartment, live in it 12, 24 months, and then get a lease agreement on it. And now you can go buy your other house. But now you're building your real estate portfolio without ever having to put 20% down. And you're building long-term generational wealth, because 2/3 of the wealth we have in our country is tied to the equity we have in homes. And equity equals power, because power in money is what translates. And that's what's, I believe, terrifying the power structures across the country, because we have the most equity we've ever had in our homes. Right now, the average equity position is nearly 60%. 40% of homeowners right now own their home free and clear, which is awesome. But that should also be a interesting dynamic to play out once rates do continue to drop, because they're going to have a lot of cash when they enter the market. So they have a lot of cash when entering the market, kind of like what happened in 2020 and 2021 and some parts of 2022, where people were bidding 50, 70, 100,000 over list because there was just not enough homes and they needed to get under contract. So this is so important. Seeing this numbers takes away the emotions from it and lets you see what's going on. In the 80s, interest rates were at the highest we've seen. They were near 20%. But what did home prices do in the 80s? 7%, 5%, 1%. So people say, oh man, my parents were lucky, or this person was lucky to be able to buy at this time period. Luck has nothing to do with it. It's about being prepared and ready to execute when the opportunity it comes in front of you or arises. So right now, if you buy a house and 30 years from now, 40 years from now, kids and people are going to be looking back saying you were lucky to be able to buy a home at this point in this time period, because look at home prices now. And it sucks that home prices have skyrocketed, but it's also great because it's given people the ability to invest in their future, have security for retirement, as long as they're leveraging their equity position in a smart way that's systematic and calculated. That's why it's important to have a relationship with your loan officer who's aligning with your financial advisors if you have one, or can connect you with one so they can have a game plan in place. Because sometimes if you own a home and there's a capacity curve, because you have to reinvest back into that home in order to keep up with the current markets. And so this kind of touches on like the areas that get gentrified, which I think is abysmal in a lot of times because it ends up happening because of over policing and other, you know, lack of investments into those communities. But what ends up happening, those homes end up not being invested in, and the property values go down in that area while other areas are booming, right in time for investors to go in and offer Nana and Grandpa 20, $30,000 for a home that they're going to put 100,000 into and then sell it for 700 grand. And I would rather just tell Nana and Grandpa how they could get their house to be worth 700 so they can sell and go live in confidence in retirement instead of struggling. And so that's why I'm on this channel. You do not have to use me. I am here to educate people and empower them to make a buying or refinancing decision and to motivate them to ask questions maybe they would never have asked so that they do take that as an impetus to go and search, to go make that conversation. Because there's plenty of great loan officers on this app. And you want to make sure you're aligning with one that you feel comfortable and confident speaking with. And so like Cat Loans, she's on here. Go follow her. There's so many great ones. But if you have questions, put it in the comments. I'm here to answer. But I wanted to kind of give everyone who follows and joins and interacts an overview of what's going on in the market, a slight explanation of what's on a loan estimate. So when you're comparing, and then go from there, because it's so important to understand these principles and concepts when you're shopping for a mortgage and also making a decision if now is a time to buy. Some people will say it's not a time to buy for everyone. And I would agree in only a part where if you cannot qualify. But most people are closer to qualification than they realize because you don't need 20% down. Your credit scores can be improved with a short period of time if you have a person that's a professional that can help guide you and direct you in ways to better utilize your time. But you won't know that until you've spoken with a licensed residential mortgage loan officer. And so that's why I highly encourage you to research, contact a few, interview them without asking questions, interview them as a person. Do you like them? Do you feel comfortable having phone conversations? Because we're going to ask you all kind of questions because we have to. And so it makes you feel vulnerable. We're going to ask questions about your income, your savings, your debts, and that can be very, very, very intimidating. But it doesn't have to be, as long as the person is explaining to you why they need each item and help validate your concerns and explain you every step of the way why they're being asked for. And so this is a part of the process. Again, you don't have to use me. Use whoever you want. That's your choice. I want to give you the resources so you feel comfortable and confident, like I said. Let me see. I wanted to share another slide with you. Let's see. Talking about the current market. I got that covered. So this is what I wanted to show you because a lot of people are showing this slide. And it's important because as interest rates continue to fall, you can see how much money can be saved. Now, this is an example, and this is the savings on the principal and interest portion of a payment. If you had a rate of 7% and rates now are in the sixes, if you go to 6, that saves you about $263 a month. That's a lot of money. But that's also a part where if you're not careful as in knowing the markets and how it trends and how long you're going to be in your home, you might take advantage of the 1 point drop in rate. But what if in another 6 months or 3 months, it goes down another 1 or 2 points? We don't know. But if you aren't having these conversations, a sales guy who is not, or a woman who's not really in it for the relationship, they're just in it for the transaction, who works in these data mining call centers that are just pumping out flyers, hoping for a phone call, they're gonna be able to slap the hood of the house and be like, look how much APR we can fit into this thing. You can skip this, you can do this, it's blah, 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 all the fancy schmancy talk. But in the end, it doesn't help you in align with your current or long-term financial goals. I'm paid 100% commission, but that's why I'm out here telling you, be careful because most loan officers are. And because production for most is down about 60% year over year, there's going to be people that are going to be reaching out who are greedy, who are not going to be caring about your finances, but they're thinking about their paycheck. This is a lot to see. Imagine thinking, oh man, I could save $300. But imagine if the person was able to say, hey, let's watch the market and lock in maybe after September 18th, or let's continue to see how things trend and we get another rate reduction in October if you're going to be in the home long term. But if they're not having these dynamic conversations, are you truly getting the service that you deserve? It's important. But also, some people really need that 263 bucks back in their budget. So I'm not knocking you if you did it. Just know there might be additional options later on down the road. You don't want to churn your loan because that's the other thing. Refinancing, even though a lot of times there's no money out of your pocket, they're still rolling in certain costs in your loan. And so I don't want you to ruin your equity positions by churning your loan because somebody who makes commission is greedy. And this is why I share this stuff, because I know it happens. And it terrifies me knowing how many people are about to get absolutely bamboozled by sketchy people. And I don't like it. And so that's why I'm on this thing. And like I said earlier, I'm a very private person. My fun time is like in my garage doing woodworking projects. And so, but I knew I had to get on this app and start sharing the information that I've gleaned over the last 10 years and helping 2,000 people with their home investment journey and sharing what I've seen, because I've also invested my own properties. Me and my wife, Monica, we've bought and sold multiple properties. And we bought our pretty much our forever home in the highest rate market there was, because we got seller concessions of like 20 grand, and we bought the house and it appraised 50,000 over list, which would not be the case if we bought when rates were lower. So we took advantage of the market and bought when it was the right time. Because a lot of times when people say exactly, like, it's amazing how much you can make when everybody else is terrified if you are prepared. And that's the biggest factor in this situation, is just being prepared. I taught a lunch and learn last week, and part of it was on Seneca's quote about it's an adaptation of it, but it's like luck is just the meeting point of preparation and an opportunity. And so the opportunity to buy is always there, but are you prepared? And that's where I come in, and other loan officers, is making sure you're in the best position to take advantage of an opportunity when it arises. And then 20, 30 years from now, your kids and people will be calling you lucky instead of just disciplined enough to talk to somebody. And like what I'm sharing in this is serious. Like I said, my client who got into a $350,000 house got a check back at closing for $3,500, because you can get what's called your POCs, paid outside of closing costs, back at closing when using the down payment and closing cost assistance programs, as long as it's over your minimum contribution. So as long as the down payment assistance is over 4%, you can get up to the amount you put in earnest, option, and appraisal back at closing. And so my clients got 5% assistance from TShack, and they got a check for $3,500. This is huge. So what you need to get under contract on a home is your earnest, option, appraisal, and inspection money. Earnest money is typically 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a $300,000 house, it's $3,000. Option money is usually about $100. Appraisals $500 to $700, and inspections $200 to $300, $500. So $3,000 to $5,000. Most people right now, if you start to think about that, if you need $5,000 to get into a home, tax season's coming. What do you normally get on your tax returns? I have content on this thing about Antique Curb Show, where you go to get cool furniture or whatever from the trash, put some paint on it, and sell it. And I can show, and I show people how to properly document those source of funds to use in a transaction, because there's always a way. If you love painting and you can make $20 per painting, cool. If you need $4,000, you know exactly how many paintings you need to sell. Just do that. If it takes you a week, you know exactly how many weeks it's going to take you to get into the amount of money you need to buy a home. If you don't know what it's going to take because you were just trying to guess, and you might end up taking 2-3 extra years, missing out on all that opportunity of appreciation through forced savings through principal balance reduction and appreciation in your home. I want that for you. But if you have questions, put in the comments. I'm Ron Toy with the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer doing about 10 years. I've helped about 2,000 families with their home investment journey, seen a little bit of everything. Here to answer questions, comments. I just addressed the market. So now what I want to go over is another report that I saw on the CFPB's website. That was like the 7 factors that impact your mortgage interest rate. Because a lot of times when people are calling around for mortgage rates, like, hey, what's your rates today? But that can be an interesting dynamic because it's not enough data. Because it's like saying, hey, I'd like to go out to eat, and then leaving the conversation there. Like, eat for what? Like, what are you wanting? Thai food? Do you want Indian food? Do you want Mediterranean food? What do you want? And so, like, a good thing, because things that go into it, your credit score, it's a good factor. You need to make sure your credit score is there, but it's not the only factor on your interest rate on a mortgage. Could be your location of your home, because it's different states. There's things that are called LLPAs, loan level price adjustments. Each state has different pricing. It's something you need to talk to your loan officer about. Occupancy type. Is it going to be an investment property, a second home, or primary residence? It's important. Your loan program, that's another important factor. Are you going with a VA, FHA, USDA, conventional? Do you need a different type of product that's more for custom solutions like bank statement loans, asset depletion loans? That can impact your rate. What is your loan to value? So when somebody calls and asks that question, it's usually because their cortisol level's up and they don't know what questions to ask. So they ask the most common question. What's your rate today? Well, what is your credit score? What is your debt to income ratio? Because debt to income ratio can impact. What is your occupancy type? How much are you putting down? What's the purchase price? Why is the purchase price important? Is it a jumbo loan or is it a conforming loan? Meaning it's under the conforming loan limits. All of this information can be found through searching, but it's almost like searching on WebMD when you have like a headache and you put in the symptoms and it's like, could be headache, could be pancreas cancer, some crap. And it's like, definitely not this, but at least I looked it up on WebMD. And you could watch a bunch of videos on heart surgery, but that doesn't make you a heart surgeon. And it's not saying you shouldn't look things up. You should definitely look things up. It's just that that's why you want to interview different loan officers, because we do this for a living every single day. Like, I'm not an actor. My wife is, but I would not assume to know more than her because I watch 4 YouTube videos. And I would just listen to her 30 years of experience and go from there. But that's what I'm here for, helping, educating, answering questions. Also providing information for realtors and lenders on what to be doing right now, because it can be overwhelming. What is my calls? Today is a great day to reach out to your past clients if you're a realtor or a lender and ask them, especially if they've been on the fence for buying, what do interest rates need to be for you to make a buying decision or a selling decision? Because a lot of people who own have put off selling their property because they're waiting for rates to come down. So as a realtor or a lender, if we call with that question, we can then show, because if they say, oh, I need rates to be 5%, well, there's so many cool things right now, like seller funded buy downs and permanent rate buy downs and temporary buy downs, where they could get into that rate, still take advantage of the market where it is right now, and get seller concessions. Because as soon as rates every 1 point drop in rate brings another 2 to 3 million buyers back to the market, which increases prices between 2 and 4%. This is just data. And so this is why I want to help people get ahead of it before they're right back into that crazy competitive market we're going to see as rates continue to come down. And, it goes from there. If I can help you grow your net worth and your long-term generational wealth, that's my goal, whether you use me or not. If you have questions, go ahead and put in the comments. Thank you, everyone who's joining. It means a lot to me. I don't stay on these lives very long. If you missed the beginning part, don't worry. The links to my link tree is in my profile, but I post these within a day or two on my YouTube channel so people can go back and reference it if they forgot to screenshot the market or the appreciation data, so they can go back and see it. Again, I'm not great with technology. I'm learning this stuff. I am usually not a person who wants to be on social media, very private person. But after watching so many weirdos and dorks on here and on the CNN and who are paid and owned by these huge investment companies who have a very specific targeted number of buying at least 40% of all residential properties by the year 2030, that's terrifying, because they don't typically buy to then sell within a few years. The typical home ownership cycle for a first-time home buyer, they buy their first home and then within 3 to 6 years they sell it, meaning that property gets back into the market to be able to be added to the homes that are completed through new construction. But as a hedge fund company or private equity, they buy to hold. And so when they hold it, it means less and less properties come to market, driving prices up. And that's a control thing. And so when they control the market, they also own the multifamily, now they can control the rent prices for everyone. And they make it almost impossible to get into the market to buy. And that's what I want to help people avoid, is that kind of crazy run on residential real estate. In my opinion, I don't think private equity has any business being in residential space. I think it should just be for regular, small investors, normal people that want to buy a couple homes, make some money on it, cool, but not people that want to buy or have the funds to buy 30 to 40% of all homes that hit the market. Most of the homes that those investors bought were first-time homebuyer level homes that need a little bit of renovation or updates, and they pad their portfolio and they didn't put them back on the market all the time. And that's what's been hurting our prices. And so that's why I'm here. I'm telling you, sounding an alarm, not in a way to scare you, but to motivate you, because this is something that's going to be beneficial for people who own. You're about to make so much money and be able to have a shot at retirement because we don't know what's going to happen. These weirdos out here trying to take away Social Security. The number one leading cause of bankruptcy in our country is medical debt. It's freaking terrifying. And think about as you get to retirement, if you didn't properly invest, what are you going to do? And most people, their home might be their only investment vehicle to then help ensure their retirement is not going to be eating freaking canned dog food. And I don't want that for anybody that follows me. It's something that pisses me off thinking about greedy companies making more and more and more money and out of just this weird sense of control. And I am not a person who deals with control at all. So I don't think others do. So let me show you ways to get into the path of home ownership. And it's not scary. I've helped clients, sometimes it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, but at least they have a path. There's other great loan officers that'll do the same. If you have questions, put it in the comments. If you're renting, how much are you paying in rent right now? Put it in the comments. If you've thought about buying and you're like, how much money do I need? Put in the comments. I'd love to answer some basic questions on this live before I get off here in the next few minutes to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident on that next phase. This is a super important decision. I'm also going to try different times for the live because sometimes I go live at noon to catch those lunch break people who are wanting a little bit of info, realtors before they do their 12 o'clock calls and 1 o'clock calls. But I know also TikTok's doing this weird thing where they want you to be on live at like 8, 9 o'clock at night. So I'll try it. Usually at that point, I'm not in business mode and my Adderall and my Vyvanse have worn out of my system. And then it's like, you're getting me raw and it's weird. So I'll let people see that side of me too. Yeah, if you have questions, put it in the comments. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer. Been doing this about 10 years. Have helped around 2,000 families with their home investment journey. It's a passion. Monica knows because she's my wife and she has seen that side and she knows that good luck. But yeah, happy to answer questions. If there aren't any, no worries. I will see you on the next one. Think about what you want me to cover on the future lives. But just remember, right now is a fantastic time to buy, but buy what you can comfortably afford. Don't buy trying to impress someone else. That's an antiquated mindset. Bull. It's not. Buy what you can comfortably afford. Don't try to impress other people because they're not paying your bills. And I want you to be financially stable and independent so that you can take your power back and move in the future with power and confidence instead of reacting to every single thing that happens in our country. We're going to take our power back. We're going to have people building their own long-term generational wealth so that when and if stuff starts hitting the fan, maybe you need to be able to sell your house and make a couple $100,000 and peace out to Thailand or whatever you want to do. Like some people don't need to do that, but like, why not? Life is short. I've watched people that I care about pass away and dwindle away into nothing and not moving off of their couch. I don't want anybody I know not living the last phases of their life in a way that is anything less than spectacular. I want you to have fun. Go to the beach, go to this. But don't wait till your last phase. Do it on the last half of your life. Get it done. And it can happen through home ownership. I showed you the appreciation data. I showed you the information. If you're spending money, if you're paying rent, you are paying a mortgage. It's just not your own. Again, if you have questions, reach out to me anytime. I'm here to help. Thank you for everyone who joined. And check out my YouTube. I usually post these in the next 12 to 24 hours after the initial live. Talk to you soon.